Welcome back to the class, everyone. The day has finally come. Queen Amidala can now be unlocked at 7 stars. And whether you are doing that actually today or you're doing it 3 months from now, we do have several questions we need to address. How many Omicrons does she actually need? How are we supposed to mod her? What team is she going to go on if you don't have Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon all ready to go? And that's really the whole point of today's video. We're going to address all of those questions and more. And as you can see, the infographics are back for these type of videos. It'll be staying on the screen on the right side until it inevitably gets in the way, and then we'll take it down temporarily. If you would like a copy of that, I will leave that in the description below for you to download and share with your guild. But without further ado, we need to talk about her Omicrons. While I do think it's pretty clear what order they should go in and which ones are really necessary, it's really weird. And I mentioned this in my Luminara rant video somewhat recently. This seems to be the first character we're getting that has 3 GAC Omicrons, one of them being a lead, where the leadership is not just immediately the most important. And I know we're looking at it right now despite the fact that it is the 3rd priority when it comes to this character, but the boosts overall just seem really generic and don't seem necessarily groundbreaking for a lot of the things that the team wants to be doing. The attackers will gain offense up for 2 turns and call another random ally to assist. While that's not bad, that's probably not going to hurt your team in any way, shape, or form. Obi-Wan on the team already has multiple ways of getting offense up, and if he's going to be calling another ally to assist, they're probably not doing that much damage because most of their team is going to be made up of supports or healers or what have you. Healers and supports gain protection up and speed up. I mean, I guess that's good. Again, there's already ways that we're able to do that. And then tanks recover 25% health and protection, which I guess that would probably just be the decoy if she even gets to take part in that. So overall, this is just really lackluster. I know we're starting with the leadership, but again, this is the 3rd priority. I really wouldn't recommend this one. It's not a thrown away Ami necessarily, but at the same time, if you only have one Ami to give, it is not going to be this one. So now, where things are really going to shine are with Loyal Bodyguard. This does several important things all at the same time. If you only have one Omicron to give this team or to this character in general, it is going to be the unique. Starting off with all allies gain 25% critical damage and 40% mastery and are immune to fear and healing immunity. This is one of the things that make these type of teams endgame teams, is when you just start tacking on a bunch of random immunities. We see this a lot with Seer and Malicos, where they can't be dazed or stunned or even be crit in the very beginning of the battle. That's the type of stuff that is going to elevate them and give them a position around, because it's going to put them essentially ahead of all the other teams that are going to put healing immunity out, like Inquisitors, or fear out like Sith Empire. So or immediately that alone would probably make it the #1 priority. But wait, there's more. Whenever an ally is inflicted with a stack of damage over time, so this is probably specifically aimed at Lord Vader or maybe another comp, they dispel it and they gain healing over time and protection over time, which the team synergizes heavily with that. So that's really important almost regardless of what team you're going against, assuming they have dots. And this is also really good. At the start of the encounter, summon an ally handmaiden decoy. Whenever an ally decoy is critically hit, all enemies are inflicted with potency down and tenacity down for 2 turns. That's bonkers. Not only do you immediately start with the decoy, which we'll get to why that's even more important later, because you don't have to burn your first special doing that, but you're consistently going to have the entire enemy team with tenacity down, which means any and all of your debuffs are going to consistently stick and you're just going to completely destroy them. So definitely priority #1 is going to be the unique. I don't hate the special. I don't think it's going to be necessarily necessary for most matchups, but I think it is going to be a pain in the butt when you go in and you see a defensive team and you see that she has 2 Omicrons. You're really hoping one of them is the lead and the second one is not this one. Because overall, what you are allowed to do now, if you're starting the battle with the Handmaiden already active, you can act and use this one instead of summoning the decoy. And the reason why that's important is because this will apply speed down as well as a cooldown increase to the entire team, making it really hard for them to dig themselves out of that hole. Granted, there are a few teams out there that are just immune to cooldown reduction, but at the same time, it's going to be helpful against the majority of them. So overall, pretty good. Not as game-breaking as the unique, but I still think it might be worth using in some other situations. So that's really how the Omicrons break down. Unique best, special second best, leadership, meh. And then as far as Zetas go, there's one on both the leadership and the unique. If you're not doing Omicrons, like you're just thinking of this like as a helper for TW, the leadership is probably better, and then go for the unique afterwards. They're not really bad though. These aren't going to end up in a video about Zetas you can skip later on. You can feel pretty confident in placing them. Now, when we moving on to the overall team compositions, we need to understand that there is a made base for this, and I'm not going to read all three of these characters' kits consistently, but just know the amount of synergy here is wild. Not only between Amidala with the two of them, but between both Master Qui-Gon as well as Padawan and Obi-Wan, they just do a ton of stuff together, whether it be buffs or calling to assist or protecting. There's just a lot of synergy going on. So that is going to be the comp we're going to want to use for only 3v3, but even in 5v5, most of the Amidala teams that we're going to be using, we're just going to be rotating out two other characters, depending on what you have available overall. Now, I believe these are going to be the 5 best options. The characters have to be Galactic Republic. You really don't want to be mixing in scoundrels like Clone Wars Chewie, or more importantly, Commander Ahsoka Tano, as well as you don't want to be including JMK, because that messes with some of Queen Amidala's kit. And we'll actually mention a little bit later why you really don't want to put her under the JMK squad. But for now, the reason why these 5 characters are here is because they're either good under her or they're not necessarily very important anywhere else. Obviously, R2-D2 is parked for the vast majority of players with Leia, but there are still quite a few people out there that don't have Leia, and he's a viable option just because he's going to boost a lot of the stats that they have. He gives a nice offensive boost to Galactic Republic units because he's going to boost his own offense off of them. That therefore is going to let POW have a higher chance of 1 or 2 shotting someone from below protection, which is really what you need to happen for this team to start getting off kills. But again, if you can't use him because you have Leia, there are other options. I kind of like Ayla probably the most, not because she's amazing, but because she doesn't really have a home elsewhere, and she does offer some utility between her stuns and calling people to assist. Grandmaster Yoda should be able to spread a lot of buffs, and with the protection up and the protection over time and health over time constantly being spread around, that sounds like a pain in the butt. I'm not that interested in his damage, specifically because, again, with POW on the team doing a tremendous amount of damage and hitting below protection, the characters that hit above protection aren't really going to be highlighted that much because he should, in theory, be killing them before they even get there, which is why I believe Cam Ki-Adi-Mundi is actually going to shine the most. And the reason why we're not just saying you should use him and forget everyone else is because most people either A, don't have him, or B, already have him slotted into a Qui-Gon Jinn or Kelleran Beck team. If you are kind of the oddball out there where you do have him built up but don't have either of those teams going, he's going to synergize really well with the Queen Amidala team. I realize that his unique Jedi Council is mostly not going to apply because Queen Amidala herself is not a Jedi. However, we've tested this, Overcasted, the player out there, brought this to light, and then I tested it myself. This first part of the ability is the only part that cares if there is an entire team of Galactic Republic Jedi. The bottom portion here that says Galactic Republic Jedi allies with a support or healer role have an additional offense equal to 10% of the max health. That is universal. Any team that he gets put on, they get to have that. And this is really great because that means not only Master Qui-Gon is going to be gaining damage, but if you have another support or healer on the team, like Ayla or Barriss or Grandmaster Yoda that we just talked about, they're, in addition to that, going to have more damage to deal with. And while that's good, I think what is most valuable on this entire character is the fact that he has Armor Shred. And the reason why, it goes all the way back to what we were talking about with POW. POW really wants to be able to one-shot or two-shot a character from full health below protection. One of the ways that other characters can help him do that is by applying Armor Shred. POW himself already has offense up, critical damage up, and defense penetration, which is great for boosting his own stats, but if they are able to cleanse or never got the defense down from him, then an Armor Shred from Cam, which really can't be dispelled, is going to help him deal that much more damage. So overall, great fit on the team. Although I do realize most people just aren't going to have that luxury because they never got him to begin with or because he's already slotted into another home. Barriss, I actually quite like Barriss a lot. She synergizes very well with the team, mostly just because she is going to give you a way to utilize critical hits even more. We've dug into it a little bit, and we'll dig into it more later probably, but the Queen Amidala team likes to be critically hit. Master Qui-Gon Jinn is going to get protection up whenever he is crit to the whole team. In addition to that, Amidala's leadership is going to constantly be reducing the enemy stats whenever they're critically hit. So you have the synergizing that goes very well in there. Turn meter gain, dispels, all that's also really good. And then more importantly, we also have an equalize here, which this is really great because whenever you have 6 characters on a team, we've seen this with the Geonosians or with Mon Mothma, equalizing is really nasty because you just have that much more to work with when you are constantly healing everybody up. So overall, great fit. If you ask me, Calvin, with my roster, what 2 am I going to probably be using? It's going to end up being Barriss and Ayla for the most part, just because Cam, Grandmaster Yoda, and R2-D2 all have better homes, and for me, they're the most flexible. But I realize there are rosters out there where Barriss just absolutely has to be with Rey because you don't really mess with Datacrons. Ki-Adi-Mundi, maybe you don't have him built up for Kelleran Beck because you don't have Kelleran Beck because he's not accelerated. I realize there are other situations out there. So any of these 5 characters, or realistically any Galactic Republic character, is going to have, or is going to do a good job. I would advise not using Luminara, and I realize that's really sad out there, and I'm not going to go into detail because I made a whole video about this, but basically Luminara almost has anti-synergy with Amidala, despite the fact that she's Galactic Republic and deals with healing over time. But just several things in her kit don't mesh well. The fact that she can't manipulate cooldowns like she wants to, or the fact that she's stopping crits when the team wants to be crit. There's a bunch going on there that is very unfortunate and honestly makes me very sad. So overall, that is going to be the end-all be-all team for the normal 5v5 comp. Now, if you do not have Qui-Gon Jinn or Obi-Wan, like myself, you're going to need to be a little bit more creative. And the good news is, Queen Amidala herself, as we previously mentioned with the Omicron talk, most of her kit is locked to this unique ability. Now, this unique ability does specifically exclude Galactic Legends or Scoundrel allies, so we're going to want to be using her more along the lines with a Padme team. This is great, especially if you don't even have JMK at this point. You can just slot her in there as the 5th, and then all of a sudden your team gets all the boosts that are coming with that, including the decoy, which will be taunting, as well as being immune to fear, having more critical damage, and all of that fun stuff. So any normal Padme team, you could probably feel free to tank out the tank like GK or Mace, maybe keep them in. That's really going to be up to you. But the Handmaiden decoy should be able to tank a lot of the hits that they were originally tanking. Now, the other option to this would be using her in a Gidme team, and the whole purpose here is because Queen Amidala specifically matches the criteria we want, which is the fact that she is a Galactic Republic support. So that's great. She gets to do all the fun things that happen there. 3v3, I mean, you could probably do Padme, Queen Amidala, Ahsoka. That sounds fine. Again, Handmaiden's your tank, so you don't really need one of those. And I need to say this very explicitly. Do not use her with JMK Cat as a 3rd. And the reason why is very important. When you go into Queen Amidala's kit, not only does it have all this, it doesn't work with Galactic Legends or Scoundrels. I don't care as much about that. What I care about a lot is this text right here. All allies are immune to cooldown manipulation. What this means is, if you stick Queen Amidala on a JMK Cat team, you go and you use the first special to reduce Cat's cooldowns, and then Cat gets her turn. Surprise! She can't immediately leap someone off the bat and kill them because your team is immune to cooldown manipulations, which means now you have to wait the 7 or whatever turns to be able to get to it. So not only does she not get to enjoy her own kit by being on the team because of all the weird clauses she has, but on top of that, she's going to make this squad worse because you're going to immediately lose it. I guess the exception to this would be going against Leia, who wasn't going to allow that in the first place. But for the most part, avoid this. This is not the way. Don't do it for the reasons specifically stated. So those are how the overall comps are going to work between 5v5 and 3v3, both pre-POW and post-POW. And I forgot to mention earlier, but I guess going over overall relic levels, and that should actually be mentioned in modding. That'll coincide very well. So Zombie here is our placeholder for Queen Amidala's mods, and this is actually very cool how they worked this out. So one of the things that Amidala's kit says, and this is important for her modding, and this has been done before, the Handmaiden decoy, this unit's stats scale with the summoner's stats. This unit can only be summoned to the ally slot if it's available. What that first sentence there means is how we mod Queen Amidala is how the Handmaiden decoy is going to be modded. Now, Lasias the Fox, another member of the community, has a very detailed spreadsheet of how this actually breaks up because it is not necessarily consistent across every single character, but he has informed me, and I've seen his spreadsheet and everything, and it checks out. Queen Amidala is giving 100% of her protection and health to the decoy. That's awesome. Not only because we want all those stats, but because it's equal, that's going to let us know how we should mod Queen Amidala, because that will instantly coincide with how she's going to be modded. It's not some weird breakdown like 50% or 75% or 1.25. It's just straight 100% how she's modded, or how her health and protection are after all the bonuses, is how the decoy is going to end up. Which leads us to a pretty, in my opinion, clear conclusion. We want to mod her for speed and protection. Speed specifically for Queen Amidala so that she can continually spam her specials, whether it be getting the decoy back after she got killed, or if it's to specifically increase the enemy's cooldowns. Both of those are very important. And then we want to go with protection really for two main reasons. Number one, there's nothing in Queen Amidala's kit that really favors health over protection. This is pretty rare with Galactic Republic. Galactic Republic really loved their health. The only thing that's even like slightly leaning towards health in her kit is the fact that they gain protection up. Healers and supports do whenever they use a special, and protection up is built off of health. That's really it. Everything else in her kit really wants to point to protection, because everything that she does with protection, everything she does with health, she also gives to protection. And I don't have it shown here now, so it's not going to be very clear. But once you do get her up to Relic 5 or Relic 7, kind of where we're saying you want to build her up to, her protection base is going to be larger than her health base, which means whatever mods we apply on top of that, protection is going to ultimately be the winner. In addition to that, protection primaries are already better off than health primaries. When we look at health primary, it is giving 16% health overall, when compared to a protection primary is giving 24%. So Amidala is not only going to have a larger base in protection, but in addition to that, the mods are going to scale even higher and give her a better boost. And then again, all those protection stats that she's getting, she is also going to pass to the decoy, making the decoy even harder to kill. Now, as far as relic levels go for Queen Amidala, I would love to just put her at like Relic 3, Relic 5, and call it a day. The issue with that is because her stats are going to scale to the decoy, we probably shouldn't. She probably wants to be something realistically more like Relic 7 or Relic 9 if you do that, just because the Handmaiden decoy is going to live or die based on how the survivability of Queen Amidala, which higher relic levels always get you farther. The one added boost to that, and one more reason in favor, I guess, of R9 on Queen Amidala, if you can do that, is the fact that she does give mastery on her unique ability, which that also scales with relic levels, so that is kind of a nice extra bonus. If you're trying to convince yourself to do it, that might be the tipping point. So I believe that is going to be the video for today. We've covered Omicrons, Zetas, team comps, mods, relics, refresher. Overall, you want to get her unique Omicron first, then her special, then her lead. If you are going to build a squad with her and already have Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, use them and then sprinkle in whatever two characters you have available or you deem worthy. If you don't, these are going to be your options. 3v3, obviously you want to use this team if you have it available. If you do not, then we're going to aim for something like this. Never use her with JMK Cat if you can help it, unless you're doing something really weird versus Leia. And then modding protection, or I guess I didn't label this specifically, protection primaries on these three mods, a speed set, health or defense set, probably doesn't really matter depending on what her matchup is going to be, and then a speed primary on the arrow. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay awesome.